Hello guys, welcome back to another Thursday Live. It's going to be an exciting one. Today we're having Socrates on our live from Brian and Mercer Solicitors. He's going to be answering a few questions you've already sent, but in the meantime, feel free to send us more of your questions. If you have any, if you want to find anything about the conveyancing process in general, just let us know, and Socrates is more than happy to answer. So
yeah,
guys,
we're actually going to be starting in probably around about 30 seconds with him. So obviously we will have conversation with him, or we will have a conversation with him and ask the questions that are going to be something that a lot of people are asking right now, which we've actually got from our sites, with obviously the public eye that people are talking about in the first place. But
thank you for sending us the question. We got 4 questions from 4 different followers. Thank you so much for asking your questions.
Yeah, definitely.
Today we have of buyers and sellers using terrible solicitors. And last year we partnership with Socrates and a couple of other solicitors that are very good actually, and tonight.
perfect. And Socrates is ready to join. Let's welcome him on board. Bear with me 1 second. Let's have a look. See.
It's the first time, guys. The beauty.
Perfect. Yes, Socrates is in. I think everyone can now see and hear you.
Hi guys.
How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Going strong, you know, almost the end of the week. Got a completions day tomorrow as usual, so.
Wow.
But how are you finding sort of going from last year to this year, even though it's very much at the start of the year? Are you finding it sort of like picking up quite quickly with the new year or 2023, or what are you finding it at the moment?
I mean, there's still a lot of work to do. There's definitely, I guess, a little bit of a slowdown in some aspects, I guess, of the market, but we're still going strong. We still have a lot of work to do, plans to help. So yeah, no, we're still moving.
So it sounds like you're doing pretty well at the moment then.
Yeah, no, we're going strong at Brian and Mercer. We are. How about you guys?
We've never been so busy in lettings. Honestly, it's not estate agent talk. In the last 2 weeks, we've been letting like 2 properties a day. It never happened before, right?
Oh God, last time that we were renting sort of 2-3 properties a day, we were with a different agency, and it was actually a corporate agency where they were sort of like having God knows how many people working for them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's pretty decent.
Yeah, very decent. And people sold the property yesterday. So I would say great at the moment. And should we go straight on the question? So Sarah yesterday sent us one of the 4 questions that we have for you. Why choosing a good conveyancer is a paramount?
It's a really good question, and it's quite timely because I'm actually going through my own conveyancing at the moment for myself to buy my first property. So
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So I had to sit and consider such considerations, and I think what makes a good conveyancer, why it's paramount to choose a good conveyancer is, firstly, selling or buying property is one of the most stressful things you'll ever do. I think people say divorce, having a child, and moving are one of the most stressful experiences you can have in life. Secondly, it's highly likely for most people to be one of the biggest, if not the biggest, investments they'll ever make in their life. So again, why would you have someone that's not so good dealing with your biggest investment ever? Then another really important reason, which is not so obvious to the majority of buyers, I'd say, is that you only ever really find out if something went wrong when you come to sell in the near or far future. So in 3, 5, 10 years, you find out, oh, in the past, the cheap conveyancer you instructed didn't notice this, that, and the other, and then you've got delays on your sale, or even, some type of loss. And lastly, I think it's paramount to choose a good conveyancer, because a good conveyancer would be expected to you know, keep awareness of the law that was always changing, the property market, regulations that might affect freehold or leasehold sales. That obviously knowing all that it makes a difference, and showing that the speed in the transaction and not, you know, wasting time researching stuff that you should already been aware of as a conveyancer.
Socrates, so quick question from me. Do you see that quite often where you're like in a conveyancing process and you see that these lesser educated, let's say, solicitors out there, they actually do cock up on some of the issues that might be very, very sort of like normal sort of things to go through? Do you see that they just don't have that experience in front of them? Or is it more the communication that you struggle with? Or what is it that you would say with a worse or more worse sort of like solicitor would you say is the most common thing you see?
So I'd say, so the reference to the point I was making earlier is something that you wouldn't see, I guess, because we're talking about the Conveyancer Acted in the past. But in regards to your question, unfortunately, the biggest thing we see with, let's say, conveyancers that I say might be lacking a little bit is communication. Communication is you know, sometimes all you need is just a one-liner back to say yes or no or take instructions, and you might wait a week or two sometimes to receive that, I guess, and that can be an issue, yeah. But I think it's really hard to judge as well in the last couple of years where there might be crazy from the pandemic and lockdowns causing it to be crazy, as well as, you know, the stamp duty deadlines and stuff like that. I mean, I make no excuses for conveyancers that, you know, we're not keeping up or providing good service, but in the last 2.5 years, I'd say there was an absolute boom of business in conveyancing, which caused delays and whatnot. So yeah.
But I think from obviously our experience as well with you, Socrates, is that we've obviously given you a lot of properties through our database, and with every single property that we've had, we've seen a very, very quick response to the point where, like, we call you and you pick up straight away. And I think that's so important, like you said, to a lot of clients out there, just on the sole basis that you don't want to be waiting 2-3 days, 4-5 days to get back to your solicitor or for your solicitor to get back to you in the first place. And then you suddenly realise that it's just a normal question that needs to be answered from you in the first place, that then delays the whole process for another 2-3 months. And I think you've hit the nail on the head, mate. And I think personally, from my honest opinion, and not because obviously you're working alongside us, genuinely we feel that you are one of the best sort of solicitors that we've had in the time that we've been sort of doing estate agency in the first place.
You're very kind, thank you. I mean, no, I agree. The speed in modern conveyancing is definitely not what, you know, it's not adequate at the moment, that people need to keep up and actually use the technology we have to organize themselves and respond to clients quicker and utilize what we have. And I think there's remnants of a different era that are still in the conveyancing department, and that's, yeah, it's slowly being, you know, improved on. But again, I think that this is why people should check as to, you know, what makes a good conveyancer, and, you know, and I can also talk about, you know, what they should be looking for, I guess, in that regard. But yeah.
Well, funny you say that. So obviously, I had a conversation with someone called Freddie the other day, and Freddie basically said to me, just because I told her about, obviously, so we're going on Instagram Live with you, and she said to me, what makes a good conveyancer?
Okay, so this one to me is actually a very quick and easy answer.
Yeah.
It's the obvious is stuff that you'd expect is, you know, knowledge, experience, professionalism, communication, which are key. But I think another thing that makes a good conveyancer that people might not be so aware of is, or might not think about when reaching out and doing their research, is you do also need someone that's, you know, slightly or at least a little bit empathetic and compassionate to your circumstances. Because when we move as people, again, as I said, I'm moving at the moment, it's always emotional, because you're either, unless you're, you know, a buy-to-let investor, you're either a first-time buyer, or you're selling and buying because you have a growing family, or because you lost a loved one and you're the executor. So you do look for attributes like that, I think, in a good conveyancer as well, you know, as well as the professional communication, speed. But that I think is something people should, you know, also.
Yeah. But I suppose also on top of that as well, it's a bit of a domino effect, isn't it? Because you say the emotions are obviously high stress levels are in sort of property in the first place, but also emotions. If you can connect with someone on those two levels, then I think that's going to reassure them a lot more than if you just say, oh, well, I'm going to get your money and thank you very much, and that's it. I think I do genuinely see where you're coming from that as well.
Sure, it's this.
We were talking about delays earlier. A guy was asking the other day, what is delays on, you know, completion from offer to completion? Sometimes it can happen like seven months. Is it to do as well with the council, the local council, or the management, the bidding management companies that with the new working from home stuff, they are being slower than before?
I'd say, you know, that there's a possibility that that's a factor, that, you know, some that used to be, you know, had a template, let's say, all of a sudden, because of the ever-changing working environment, because of COVID, because of technology, have changed, and people are still getting used to, you know, the continuity of these processes now that they're not based at their office where they used to be, or because they're not, or even sometimes perhaps they don't have a manager on top of them at home to say, you know, have you done this yet? And because you made a good point, often you might see conveyancing taking 6-7 months, and you think it's just the sale of the, but there's so many parties sometimes in leasehold that you have to check with, and if something has changed and you're 3 months in, you have to go and get an update again from, you know, the people that take 2 months to respond, and you end up, you know, losing all that time, unfortunately, because of the many moving parts in leasehold conveyancing, especially.
Sure. No, that makes sense, doesn't it? You know, there's, I think conveyancing process, everyone wants to try and keep it down to a minimum, isn't it, really?
And then another question, which is from me, Socrates, basically, which I hear mostly on my clients, you know, when we discuss about solicitors, is the fact that they're saying, look, Fivos, why not save that, like, I don't know, X amount of pounds and go with that solicitor rather than sort of overspending over my budget and going with that one? Would you say price and quality sort of comes together, or there are some cheap, good solutions out there?
I think people should be looking at the mid-range, because I don't think cheap is what you should be looking for in conveyancing. Because I think maybe because we use the terminology conveyancing, a lot of people forget what they're really doing when instructing a conveyancer, which is you're instructing a legal professional to minimize risk, you know, the risk of loss of money and value in your assets. So, you know, whether it's £1,500, £3,000, £3,500, you have to look at the next price you're paying for your asset and consider, you know, am I really going to use the cheapest service possible for my due diligence for something that, you know, I'm possibly going to put all my money into? So I think there are very cost-effective solutions out there, but I think people should be looking out for certain things and asking the right questions before they instruct someone. And I mean, I can give you an idea of, like, when it comes.
Yeah, what are the right questions to ask?
Yeah.
So I guess, especially when it comes to the price element, I think price transparency is key. But I think I have to explain that very quickly, is that price transparency often in clients' minds means, can I get a guarantee as to a fixed price? Now, it's always good if you can, because, you know, you need to budget. I know that. I'm buying myself at the moment. But you have to keep in mind that the fixed quotes come with fixed work, and you are only ever giving your description of what your sale or purchase might be like. So you should be looking for an honest approach from your solicitor conveyancer, where they're going to turn around and ask you certain questions to make sure your transaction is a straightforward freehold transaction or leasehold. You should be looking for someone that will also tell you, by the way, there may be additional fees, additional work, and you should be looking for someone that will say, but we will stop and give you a call before we carry out that billable work, you know, and get your instructions on it. Because you might decide, you know what, if I need to do this, I'm not going to buy the property after all. Other things I think people should be looking for are Independent reviews are very important. And what I mean by that, I mean from word of mouth to, you know, checking for Google reviews. Because, and in contrast, I'd say do not rely on website testimonials, for example, because we can all post whatever we want on our websites or just post. Then something that overlaps with something I mentioned earlier, look for a solicitor that almost cares about your transaction as much as you do, or a conveyancer. I mean, it doesn't have to be a solicitor, it could be a licensed conveyancer. And then one of the most important things, I think, and people don't realize until they're in the transaction, is to know who you're working with. So who's going to be your point of contact at the firm you're going to instruct, and who else, because, you know, you can't expect your conveyancer to always be by himself. He will have support staff, or she will have support staff, and it will be good that you know who these people are. So when they approach you, or when you need to speak to someone and your solicitor's not there, you have your named solicitor and then one that are there for you to pass on a message or get an update. What else? I guess the last point, but it is, I wouldn't say is necessarily a key point, but it can work and it can be a consideration depending on your type of sale, is proximity. And sometimes it might be proximity to you. So you might be selling your parents' property in Newcastle, but you're based in London. Well, at that one, you might want to get solicitors near you, especially if you've got power of attorney and you're going to be signing all this stuff. You don't want to be traveling to Newcastle. And the opposite, I guess, would be that, hey, local knowledge about a local property sometimes might add a little bit more value. Although because of technology nowadays, that is not so much of a consideration, but it can help in certain circumstances, the proximity. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. I think thank you so much, obviously, for your time, Socrates, at the moment, and thank you for giving all this very, very in-depth information for sort of like finding out the right solicitors, getting the information out there to everybody in the public. Obviously, what we'll do, guys, as well, is we'll put it in the comments below in the actual video of Socrates' details, like his website and everything else, if you do want to use him. But also, if you do want to get in touch with us as well, you can direct message us, you can give us a call, you can give us an email, and then we can obviously pass on his details too. But thank you so much for your time, Socrates. Honestly, it's been actually sort of liberating, sort of knowing a little bit more about it, but I think that's answered quite a few questions. I definitely, if you're still keen for this as well, I definitely think we need to do a follow-up video call if you're still happy for that too.
Yeah.
Precisely, and Socrates, I think it was long overdue because many of our clients, you know, were asking all types of questions regarding solicitors, and sometime this month we're going to publish a blog regarding what we've said, and also a couple of other bits and pieces, which is definitely, we're going to send it to you as well, just to have a read through and like tell us your opinion about it. But yeah, Matteo is going to give you a couple more bits and pieces on that as well.
Thank you so much, Socrates, for your time.
Oh, yeah.
And we will definitely be in touch. We still need to meet for the beer. And,
that beer, we're definitely still waiting on at that point as well. No, I'm not saying.
And thanks to all our followers, guys.
I will do. So it was lovely to speak to you guys. Telling everyone watching from our followers, follow Alex and Matteo. Really good. Yeah, take care. Have a good and a good rest of the week.
You too, Socrates. Thank you.
See you soon.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.